This is Sarnia Lambton Daily for Wednesday, April 6th. Good evening, I'm Terry Doyle. Lambton Public Health has declared an end to an outbreak at a Sarnia seniors residence. The outbreak was declared at Summit Lodge in late April after a staff member had tested positive for COVID-19. It has now been 2 weeks since that positive test, and no more tests have come in from residents or staff that have come back positive. The medical officer of health for the region says normally one staff member would not mean an outbreak would be declared, but the rules regarding coronavirus are different. Meanwhile, it has been 13 days since a new positive case has been reported at Landmark Village. If this trend continues, the outbreak could be declared over as soon as Thursday. The home has seen 30 residents and 10 staff test positive for COVID-19, including 6 people who have passed away. Overall, 192 positive tests have been diagnosed in the region since the start of the pandemic. That is the same number as the previous update. One more person is considered recovered, up to 122, which brings the total number of active cases in Sarnia-Lambton to 54. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has announced a loosening of some of the restrictions around businesses in the province.
As of Friday, May the 8th, at 12:01 a.m., garden centers and nurseries will be allowed to open. So heading into Mother's Day this weekend, please be sure to support your local garden center and nursery and pick up some nice flowers for all the great moms out there. Furthermore, as of Saturday, May the 9th, at 12:01 a.m., hardware stores, safety supply stores will be allowed to reopen. This means people will be able to shop in stores as long as these businesses follow strict public health measures to protect staff and customers.
With more on today's announcement, let's go to the Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development, of course the MPP for Lambton Kent Middlesex. Here is Monte McNaughton. And Minister, right off the bat, let's talk about today's announcement by the Premier and being able to provide people with some positive news heading into the Mother's Day long weekend. I'm sure as Cabinet there was a lot of discussions, but must be at least pleased to be able to take this next step.
This is great news for the people of Ontario, in particular for the business community. Thankfully, by all of the people in Ontario working together over the last couple of months, we've gotten to this point where we're seeing better health data. We're way ahead of where we thought we would be in the beginning of COVID-19. I mean, by this point, I know at the end of April, we thought there was going to be thousands of deaths. Thank goodness we've exceeded those expectations. So today, a number of businesses are going to be, or the announcement today that a number of businesses are going to be reopening on Mother's Day weekend is great news.
One of the things the Premier, of course, talked about was maintaining the physical distancing, the guidelines that we've seen even in other industries like grocery stores, like pharmacies. And we talk about safety of the workers, and I'm sure that's something that is always discussed, that balancing act between letting people and getting the economy moving, but at the same time, making sure everyone's safe.
Health and safety is paramount. I mean, we've been guided by the advice from the Chief Medical Officer of Health since day one. Again, great news. So we've listened to that advice. We're turning a corner here in Ontario. This weekend, on Friday, for example, garden centers and nurseries will be open to customers. On Saturday, hardware stores and safety supply stores will be open for customers to go in. Of course, the social distancing has to happen in those businesses, but I'm very confident that they'll abide by the rules and protect the customers and the staff.
One thing we've seen in sort of the bigger picture as well, there was more news today about construction sites and able to move those and sort of open things up a little bit more. And I've got to think that's where people, maybe the day-to-day situation, people don't necessarily see that at sort of the retail level, but I've got to think that's a huge area for the province as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the files that I've been overseeing for the government for the last number of months. We actually began this past Monday to reopen a larger part of the construction industry, and this weekend we'll open up more of it. Thousands and thousands more people are going to work on construction sites, now than what they were, say, a week ago. So that's good news. The construction industry actually has a great track record. They put out health and safety guidelines in the very beginning of COVID-19, and there's been major improvements across the country. Thankfully, there's only been between 6 and 10 cases of COVID-19 on construction sites. So very good news. And of course, they're working outdoors. They're practicing social distancing. So it's good that we can open more of it.
We know through the labor unions and through the labor and the construction, health and safety is always a huge factor for them day to day, never mind in a pandemic. And have you found that's been huge where because they already have that health and safety culture, there's already a lot of buy-in here?
Absolutely. I've worked very, very closely with our labor leaders, with contractors, and with workers to develop these new guidelines. So I continue to listen to the industry. We've beefed up the number of inspectors. There's about 500 now in Ontario that are going out since COVID-19 started, and since we've really ramped up the inspection side. We've been out to over 5,000 workplaces to deal with COVID-related issues in total. Lots of concern through this from workers. So all of us are working together, and really we've seen a lot of improvement, but more to do.
You were first elected to Queen's Park in 2011, so it's been coming up to 9 years now. I've got to think this is a very unique situation that you and your colleagues have had to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, MPP Bob Bailey and I speak several times a day. We work very, very closely together. He's a mentor of mine, believes in health and safety in a big way. Of course, he comes from a union background and management background. Never, did I ever see this, and Bob would say the same when we got elected, that we would be faced with this. But, it's all about the people, and there are just so many unsung heroes out there. Of course, the healthcare workers, but it's those grocery store clerks and the people that, deliver things via transportation like trucks. Everybody's come together to defeat this. And that is why we're so far ahead of where we thought we would be. It's very positive and it's very inspirational. It keeps me going every day.
I've got to think that's where sometimes there is that catch-22. You see the positive numbers, but I'm sure people are reaching out to you and through the ministry or through your constituency office saying, let us do more, let us do more. But as the Premier says, and I'm sure in your messaging is, just be patient, just give us a little more so that the progress we've made isn't lost.
Well, absolutely. I mean, yes, the phone's been ringing nonstop, 7 a.m. till midnight every single day. People wanting to get back to work and businesses wanting to reopen. We're going to continue to take this measured approach. It has been working. The Premier every day talking to the people of Ontario during his 1 o'clock p.m. Press conferences has been, I think, very well received. And that frank, straight talk with people has, I think, really brought everybody together. So we'll continue taking the same approach. And again, we're guided by those daily numbers that are released through the Chief Medical Officer of Health every single day.
What's a normal day like for you?
Well, I thought, I was just telling someone today, I thought as Minister of Labor, Training and Skills Development that I would be, extremely busy during the beginning of this, which we were, and I was, because we brought in a number of measures to protect workers and their jobs. But we're 10 times busier as we, start moving out of COVID-19 and start reopening the economy. It's just, there's so many labor relations issues. There's the health and safety issues. I issued last week 65 guidelines for different businesses and sectors of the economy to work towards in order to reopen. So it's documents that give advice to businesses to put plexiglass, for example, between customers and staff, or to, if you're in manufacturing, to put a boot tray in to sanitize people's footwear in and out of work. So there's a lot of these things that are happening now to get us out of COVID and to get the economy open. That's really, making us work long, long days, but it's exciting, it's meaningful, and we've got to get this job done.
We heard at the beginning some challenges with getting access to some of those supplies for the health and safety. We've seen, and the Premier said that those supplies are there. And now, do you find the businesses are saying, hey, we've got them, or how do we get them so that we can make sure to comply?
Well, these 65 guidance documents that I talked about a moment ago, they have very practical guidelines for businesses to um, put in their place of business. This is something that they can be doing now to prepare for a reopening. It's to keep the workers safe. They obviously, it's an economic issue. I mean, they need to get their workers back on the job, as well as they need customers to be confident going into that place of business. So it's very, very important. And again, we just all have to keep working together to get through this.
I know you were part of a business forum last night with a group east of Oshawa with the finance minister of well. What sort of feedback have you heard from that business community, or is it sort of similar things as you said in terms of what do I need to know to reopen?
It's a lot of those questions now. Obviously the timing is a big issue, but it is, what do we need to do in order to reopen? So these guidance documents are helpful. I would recommend all your listeners and viewers to visit ontario.ca/coronavirus. We've laid out all of these documents for the business community. There'll be more to come, and we've worked in partnership. Look, there's a lot of fear out there amongst the businesses in Sarnia, Lambton, and right across the province. They've been faced with something that they just never dreamt of ever before. I mean, I come from a small business background. When you have employees and that those families depend on that business operating, it's just unprecedented times. We're going to be with those businesses and the families and their staff every step of the way to get through this. I'm confident we will. It's just going to take a bit more time.
Let's wrap it up on a very positive note. You're in Mount Bridges right now. I've got to think you've seen just right there locally people helping their neighbors, helping seniors, just helping their friends, and you name it, to get through this.
This is, for me, the upside of COVID-19 has brought communities together, families, neighborhoods together. I know my 6-year-old daughter was out delivering rocks. So she would paint rocks and they would each have a positive word on them, like hope or smile or laugh. And she went around to the neighborhood with her little wagon and dropped these rocks off to people's homes. So there's been a lot of that in a lot of communities, people banging pots and pans at night to thank the healthcare workers. It's brought so many people together, and that's a good thing.
We'll leave it right there. There's Monte McNaughton, the Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development. Appreciate the time. All the best, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Terry.
Stay tuned. More to come. You're watching Sarnia Lambton Daily on your TV. All throughout the pandemic, many organizations have had to adjust and make changes and do things differently, and the Canadian Cancer Society local branch is no exception. Here's Paula McKinlay joining us now. And Paula, I'm sure first things first, having to work from the home office, I'm sure has been a little bit of a change over the last little while.
Yeah, it's a tad bit weird. I mean, I get up, I shower, I dress, and I go to my kitchen table. I have my desk set up, got a nice view of Hill Street. So I can see all the walkers and the birds. But then my 15-year-old is doing high school on her little table right next to me. So she's learning a lot of how my job is, what my job actually is these last 7 weeks.
Well, saved on the commute a little bit into Sarnia and into Point Edward, but at the same time, I'm sure your daughter at the same time thinking, Mom's looking over my shoulder at all my work now.
Exactly. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? I am very lucky. I feel for those elementary school aged moms and dads out there who have kids that age. High school, Haley's in high school now, so you know what? She's doing her all on her own.
It's all set. Take me through. What's this been like over the last 6-7 weeks for the local branch of the Cancer Society? Because we know the need is there. Cancer didn't stop with coronavirus by any means.
No, COVID-19 may have put a standstill on lots of our lives, but still on a daily basis, people in Sarnia Lambton are being diagnosed, I mean, and around the world, but specifically in Sarnia Lambton, being diagnosed every day. And their treatment world and their support world looks different now, compared to someone that may have been diagnosed 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So if you can imagine being diagnosed with cancer and not being able to hug your mom, your daughter, other family members and friends, trying to figure out how to get to treatment, because your family and friends can't go into the hospital with you and hold your hand as you're doing chemo and radiation. Who's going to take you? How are you going to get there? And who am I going to talk to? So our programs, though, our Wheels of Hope program for the safety of all and adhering to the rules of social distancing has currently been on hold, so that our volunteer drivers as well as the clients are safe with the 6 feet distancing. So that has added a challenge. But our services, like our peer match support programs that went to the phones and online years ago, are now being utilized to the max throughout this country. And don't forget, I mean, we have our cancer information services. People don't know where, they can't walk into our offices and grab pamphlets and talk to us directly about what their cancer looks like and what treatment looks like. So our cancer information services, our peer match, our cancer connection, our online forum is really being blown up by users at the moment. And all of that takes funding. And obviously with the rest of the charity world and with businesses, funds are down. So we're working hard. We're still open. We're still here. It's just the having public access to us has been limited. So we're doing things differently.
And do you find sometimes it's just now people needing that ear or needing that bit of support, where you said the peer matching and things like that? I know of a case, for example, where someone was going in for a follow-up appointment, and normally their spouse was sort of the one that do the talking and the one who sort of tracked everything, and now this patient had to go in by themselves, and it was a little leery, and just those things that we maybe took for granted in these situations, all of a sudden it's sort of been upset and having to look for different ways to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about going into an appointment with possibly you would go with your senior mom who speaks Italian, and you are that go-between for them. So calls are coming in from families. We're giving them tips and tricks on, write down your questions ahead of time, record your meetings to those clients so that their family can hear them afterward, hear the appointment afterwards. But it's where do I go next? And in our specialists that are on the other end, we have a group of specialists that take care of that. And then there's us that are still boots on the ground that are, looking around under every rock and around every corner to make sure the funds are there so these programs can continue.
Talk about fundraising. One of the big ones around here, if not the biggest one every year, is Relay for Life. And I know that's been your baby for many years. And unfortunately, with physical distancing rules and facilities and recreation areas, you name it, that's caused obviously a big challenge for that this year. But working on some alternative plans with your colleagues. Fill us in. What's coming up?
Yeah, so so Relay for Life is still there. It just has a new name for this year. Relay at Home. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to sit at home and we're going to watch through, what do you need? An internet. You need to get registered. You can do it in your pajamas. You can do it from your couch. There'll be tips and tricks sent out to all of our registrants as well as sharing on our social media on how to prepare for Relay at Home. But pretty much what it's going to be is a 2-hour on June 13th. It's going to be a 2-hour, we'll just say, episode of Relay for Life. So all of our favorites, and Terry, you've been involved for many years with us with your TV, we'll still have nationally under one broadcast. We are going to have survivor speech, and we're going to have opening ceremonies, and we're going to have a luminary ceremony. I'm seeing some ideas come out from our national team regarding what activities we can do. So sharpen your experience and your knowledge on Canadian trivia. So we're going to do activities. Theme laps are still happening that you can prepare for ahead of time. The luminary ceremony, of course, which your TV has always been our sponsor locally for that, and then closing ceremonies. Right now, we're working on some entertainment, so hopefully some of our Canadian artists will join us. But those are all in the works. But one amazing thing is this community is so dedicated and so passionate. We have an incredible group of committee members. They're going to help us put pieces together and throw it on our Facebook and Instagram for Relay for Life Sarnia. And we're going to stay engaged. And we're going to look at doing the survivor ceremony locally a night before Relay, before the Relay at Home. Why wouldn't we go and bring our favorite entertainer / workout guru Brian on board to do warm-ups the week leading up to. There's lots of ideas and programs that the group is working on. So I would encourage people to, stay active on the Facebook page, but most importantly, register. Things have changed. And Terry, I don't know if you want me to talk about what registration looks like this year.
Go for it.
Okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to pipe in and say anything.
You keep going. You're on a roll.
So for Relay at Home this year, there will be no registration fee. So when you go to relayforlife.ca/Sarnia, there's going to be a pop-up window. With the pop-up window, you're going to close out of it because you still want to be part of the Relay for Life at Sarnia experience as well as the Relay at Home. So from here, you're going to go and get registered. Survivors get registered. There is no registration fee, so you can register as a team captain, a team member, a survivor, or on your own. There's, like I said, no registration fee and no fundraising minimum this year. We definitely realize and are very respectful and empathetic that funds have changed for many, many families out there this year. All we ask is that you share your experience, you share your Relay for Life participant page, put it out on your social media, and if you're not comfortable asking for donations, just share it. One thing I have learned in the last 7 weeks is we cannot underestimate our donors and those that can support, and those that are just looking for an avenue to continue to support the Canadian Cancer Society. We are still getting calls every day on requesting, to make donations. We've still had over the weekend when Relay at Home launched in the Sarnia area alone, we already had $300 add over the weekend. So there are people out there that can, but there's no limit. In the past, there was a minimum of $150 that we asked you to raise. This year, all we ask is do what you can, because at the end of the day, we all know 1 in 2 Canadians are going to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. And some of them are experiencing that now, and they need us now more than ever.
Are you finding, I know it's early, but the people who now that you've networked with, even locally and of course with the national group as well, but it's almost like something to do right now and something to have a bit of a social interaction with people, I'm sure, as this builds up even more locally, where people are saying, hey, okay, great, my pajamas, well, sure, I can do this in my PJs. I did Relay for Life sometimes in my PJs anyway, so I can do that from home. But just people, maybe we talk about physical distancing, but there has been that social isolation. I've got to think people now can just engage a little more.
Absolutely. So my recommendation is turn off Netflix and join us at Relay at Home on June 13th, but also keep engaged with us on our social media pages leading up to, because you never know what could be out there. One great thing about Relay at Home is it doesn't limit you to a physical space like Relay for Life, the live event has in the past, right? So if you have family members in the UK, or if you have family members out west that have never really, been part of the Relay experience because they couldn't get to Sarnia on that Friday night that we usually host it, now they can be part of it with you. Sign up your family as a team and start doing things from now till Relay Day as a family. I mean, we're all using different apps these days to communicate and see each other. So start doing some either Relay fundraising or Relay activities to bring yourselves together during those leading up to the event.
So Paula, June 13th, 7 to 9 right now is the plan, I believe, and then, but it sounds like there's still lots of planning going on, both at the national level and the local level too. Absolutely. So, and if anybody has any questions, you can always reach out to us at sarniarelay@cancer.ca, and we'll get your questions answered, or find us on Facebook. Awesome, Paula. Well, keep in touch. We will certainly talk more about this as we get closer to June 13th. But certainly, as we said, check out the Canadian Cancer Society, the local branch Facebook website, you name it. Lots of information there. Paula, good to see you. We'll talk again soon. Thanks. There's Paula McKinlay joining us now from the Canadian Cancer Society. More to come on Sarnia Lambton Daily on your TV. That's going to do it for Sarnia Lambton Daily for this Wednesday, April 6th. For all of us here at Your TV, I'm Terry Doyle. Thanks for joining us. We will see you back here tomorrow.